Hi, I'm Stoel Burrowes. I'm really glad that you're interested in the Komen Foundation and the Interdisciplinary Entrepreneurship Program. I've been at UNCG since about the year 2000, and I teach in the Interior Architecture Department here at University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And about 7 years ago, under the excellent leadership of Diane Welsh, we began cross-listing entrepreneurship classes in other disciplines. And so I became part of the first group of faculty to integrate those classes. And so I took a class that is was at that point a design theory class, and I brought some entrepreneurship ideas and reading into that. And so over the years I've changed the course a number of times, well, a little bit of change, and I'll talk some about that. My background before teaching was in furniture making and furniture design, so I'm coming at it from a very craft and design oriented perspective, not so much a business perspective, although I participated in small business for years. So the class that became Design Thinking, Entrepreneurial Thinking had a different name. I don't even remember what it was back then, a few years ago. And my intention really was twofold, was to have a mixture of design students and business students form kind of teams and energies together. And so I was looking for maybe half and half would be kind of ideal. Half business students, half design students. And the other intention that developed over a year or so was that I would do approximately a third, which is a third design reading and design theory, a third entrepreneurship reading and theory, and the latter third, the combination of the two and some project to develop from that. So, and I did that for a number of years, had fairly good success with it. The numbers, of course, were never exactly 50-50, so trying to kind of make teams of one designer and one business student didn't always work, and that was fine. It was what I enjoyed was the energy created by that intersection of what I certainly learned was really very similar kinds of thinking. They weren't as far apart as I kind of imagined at first. So the idea that design students and entrepreneurship students, or entrepreneurship students with a business background more, really approached a very similar thing from a slightly different direction, a different set of skills in some ways. And so mixing that, because one of the reasons the numbers didn't work out is that there were other disciplines in there. I had some music students, I had some biology students, and so that mix also was energetic and good. So in the last year, this fall, so in fall 2015, what I talked about kind of flipping the course. It wasn't exactly what it might be called flipped teaching, but I reversed the course in the sense that I took what was a project toward the end of mixing design and entrepreneurship, and I tried it at the beginning, which was really not the beginning, it was all semester, because I never found there was enough time in the last third of the class to really fully do a project that I wanted to do or I expected that should happen. So I began the class more with the idea that, okay, we're going to do a project that's going to take you all term, and you're going to answer, I never know if it's 5 or 6 questions, what, where, when, why questions, to create a product or service that you will sell during this semester. And as we did that over the semester, we also did reading in entrepreneurship in books such as Guy Kawasaki's Art of the Start and Daniel Pink's Whole New Brain or Drive, and also reading in design theories such as Christopher Alexander's book, The Nature of Order, and Johanni Pallasma's book, the thinking hand. Those are good examples of things that I tried to bring together in their reading and study about it at the same time that they were asked to develop an idea, develop a product or service, and usually it did tend to be a product, and that they could make teams out of that, and especially a lot of time was finding a place to sell it. Originally the product had an outlet in the through the entrepreneurship program of the Spartan Trader here on UNCG's campus, and but that through its own changes and also was sort of limiting the students in how they had an outlet for their idea. So part of their idea, which I think was great for them, was to find a way to sell this. Again, not always successful, so that was interesting. Their project was to develop this product or service and then to do a final report on that, to tell the story of how that. I had intended that it would be small groups. It was sometimes individuals, sometimes groups of two. There was one group of three. They did some really fascinating stuff, which was encouraging to me, and that I enjoyed the idea, and this really fit with their reading of Guy Kawasaki's work, that an important part of entrepreneurship is, well, I'll paraphrase him, stop thinking, get out there and do it. So there is that aspect of which is a little bit contradictory to some educational things. Oh, let's think about it. Let's talk about it. In this case, it also fit with the idea of design. Sometimes well, I wouldn't say sometimes, a lot of times in design, we say, okay, great, this is the project, now go do something and we'll react to it. And we'll find ways to develop it. And so that fit well together. So a couple of the projects, one student developed a pair of mismatched socks and actually had them produced, and had a lot of his time was figuring out how to get the embroidery done, where to get the socks. So he learned a lot about sourcing those things, and then where to sell it. Two groups actually, but one group in particular learned a huge amount about self-publishing and on-demand printing and selling online, and actually developed a book and print and sold it through a couple of venues, which was great. Somebody else actually did a UNCG ice tray. Go figure. If I had ever made up a project, I would never have made up that project. So this is the part that was energetic to me, was they were passionate about something, and when they first brought up the idea to me, I said, really? Are you sure? Okay, if you're sure, let's do it. So they had a lot of effort in finding ways to produce this thing. They had a lot of talk about how to manufacture it. She actually did investigations in Mexico and China. She didn't go there, but she did investigations to figure out how you might get something produced, as well as a serious confrontation, interesting confrontation with UNCG. I said, I'm not sure you can just use that logo and kind of just use it. You know, if it's a school project, okay, but my intention is you think about this as if you're actually going to sell these. And definitely people, for the most part, actually sold their product. Very few of them were really going to go on and make a business out of it. In the after class, which didn't surprise me, I think this book, will keep going. This student is a CARS student, consumer apparel and retail studies, and had a lot of talent in clothing design already, a lot of practice in it, and was developing really more of a brand and a way to sell that in the future. This was a wonderfully lost student, and as you can maybe tell by the photo of a t-shirt, actually this has padding in it. His idea was to create something that would be padding your shoulders when you're weightlifting. I said, wow. That's going to take a whole bunch of iterations to make that work. But he ended up with something, a padded T-shirt. And so at the same time we were, as I said, doing some reading and studying on that, they also had a final project, which was a research paper on a global entrepreneur scene or situation. So I think that all mixed together was a good semester. And here are the questions that they were asked to address, along with the cost, pricing, sales venues, what are they going to sell, how are they going to make it, how are they going to sell it, when are they going to do this? Was it today? Which was each class, it was like, let's do that one today. And where are they going to make it, where are they going to sell it, who's going to be their customer, and maybe the hardest question of all, why are you doing this? Often that hard question actually provoked some really interesting answers from all the students, or most of the students. I didn't get to go back on some of my experience with as a Coleman Fellow. I started to say that about 7 years ago I introduced this into the class, and the Coleman Fellowship has taken me several times to CEO conferences, and I've also been to the experiential classroom, which was a great experience and really reinforced me in a lot of the way I teach design, not changed it, but reinforced that, and I think was influential in this idea of making the classroom as much experiential as possible for the students. Next, in about 2 weeks, a group of us go to the SBI, Small Business Institute conference as well. So it's been a great experience. Thank you very much, Coleman Fellowship Foundation. Thank you, Diane Welsh. Thank you.